When they see me, they know that every day when I'm breathing, it's for us to go farther. You know, every time I speak, I want the truth to come out. You know what I'm saying? Every time I speak, I want to shiver. You know, I don't want them to be like, they know what I'm going to say because it's polite. They know what I'm going to say. And even if I get in trouble, you know what I'm saying? Ain't that what we're supposed to do? I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. And that's our job, is to spark somebody else watching us. We might not be the ones, but let's not be selfish, and because we're not going to change the world, let's not talk about how we should change it. I don't know how to change it, but I know if I keep talking about how dirty it is out here, somebody's going to clean it up.
And now he's been promoted. His job, principal.
All right, good evening, everyone. This is Uche Njoku, Sneaker Principal, and welcome to the Sneaker Principal podcast. This evening has been a little bit staccato. I was trying to get multiple things done. Those of you who were watching me on TikTok were like, "Okay, what is he doing?" I don't know. It's a good way for me to fill the time in that TikTok space by going live there, but also you got to see me create content for my other channel and then prepare to come into the space. It's a lot of work. It is a lot of work doing a podcast, but nonetheless, I am happy that you're here. Thank you for being here this evening. And I'm really praying that you guys are not mad at me for my title of this podcast, Becoming a Millionaire Teacher. I know it's kind of clickbait-ish, but just ride with me on this. This is going to be a very short episode, but hopefully it'll be short, but there's no guarantee. I've been averaging like 40 minutes each time I've been on the mic for the past couple of days. But however, let me go ahead and tell you what I mean by this whole notion of becoming a teacher millionaire. I am a teacher. I am an educator. Yes, my present position right now is a school principal, but nonetheless, there's this ongoing topic of conversation when it comes to teachers. As usually has to do with the low pay, for the amount of hours we put in as educators. And it's been there since before I became a teacher. It will be here probably after. I remember when I accepted the position, or at least better, I remember when I informed my parents that I'll be moving to New York from Los Angeles to pursue a teaching opportunity. It wasn't even a career yet. It was just a teaching opportunity. I remember my father saying, in not such a gracious way, he kind of like pointed fingers at me and was like, see what I'm saying? You're not a forward-thinking human being. The whole notion of poverty was thrown in there. Like, if teachers are poor and you want to be poor for the rest of your life. That was pretty much the sentiment there. And I took the job. I went on and did that, even at the face of my uncle bribing me to stay. I think he offered me like $10,000 to stay and go into business with him. I'm happy I did not do that for many reasons. But nonetheless, that was 16 years ago, 2005. Here I am now, 2021. I've been a principal this is my 6th year. I was an assistant principal for even longer than that, and then I was a dean for the beginning of my career. So in these spaces, I've been entrenched in education, and no matter where you go, you hear the same thing. People ask you what you do. You tell them you're an educator, and you get more specific, public school educator. You get the God bless your heart. Oh my God, you're a saint. I couldn't do what you do. And plus, you guys don't get paid enough. This is the ongoing thing, right? So I think this has left that whole notion has left how do I put this? A stigma, a chip on the shoulders of teachers where we feel like we got to do more. We got to have side hustles. If you go on YouTube and you type in you do a search for teachers and side hustles. Oh my goodness, the number of videos that pop up is insane. But at the same time, I get it though, because I know many teachers who have so many side hustles, especially today now with Uber and Grubhub, and I've known teachers. I've worked even in my younger days. I worked when Kinko's was around. I think that's FedEx Copies now. I remember there was a teacher, history teacher, who worked at the Kinko's that I worked at in Rochester, New York. I just thought to myself, oh my goodness, he's a teacher. Why is he here? Because you don't ever imagine teachers being able to do anything else outside of just being teachers. So it's very true that teachers take on many side hustles just to be able to maintain their livelihood. But over the course of the pandemic, I think I've zeroed in even more so on what is it that teachers do, and why is it not being appreciated, and why don't we appreciate our skill sets? And I think what did it for me, especially when teachers weren't being readily recognized, at least here in New York City, as emergency workers, that kind of bothered me, because I felt like even though teachers were not on the front line, but we do know we're in the front line, because those teachers who are working with children in the different centers, teachers who are going to the classrooms, teachers who've passed away as a result of the pandemic, all these things are real, and it just made me think, what do teachers do now that there's been such a huge outflux, not even an influx, outflux of educators who've opted to just walk away from the profession? What do they go to? And I noticed a lot of them are going to completely different careers, and those who are staying in it, I'm asking myself consistently, what are you doing to expand yourself financially? What are you doing to make sure that you are good and your family is good, just in case the moment comes when you decide to walk away? So I'm going to share with you some and I thought I had in my mind. And this thought that I had in my mind came from the fact that I've noticed a shift in our educational system. I think we've all noticed this shift. And this shift has to do with the merger of social media and technology with the classroom. We now know that we don't have to only teach in the classroom anymore. That this virtual space is a space that's no longer a mystery, or, it's been demystified. So, but I also do know that the problems that we face in education is still there. There's a huge gap in skills, for a lot of children. There's a huge gap in ability and even content knowledge. And I'm not just talking, and outside of just that, people might be thinking, okay, we're talking about how do we, provide more supports and tutoring and things of that nature, and remediation. I'm not even talking about that. Also, in the space of engagement, there's such low engagement happening in classrooms now across the country, and that's part of my big focus in my school. How do we engage? How do we engage? How do we engage? How do we create more courses and course content that merges different spaces and is culturally responsive, and also has kids seeing the world in a more practical way than just what's in the textbooks? But as I was thinking about this, it made me think about this one thing. Parents are not just only looking for tutors and people to help their kids, with homework and get better at the content. There's also a huge need for enrichment and engagement and supplementation, and creating spaces for kids to really think. And I remember years ago, I used to run and teach Saturday schools and actually 2 or 3 of the schools I've worked at. And I remembered how much the kids got out of it. And these were very, very structured, program-based Saturday programs. But however, I'm wondering what would happen if kids who had access to truly enrichment-based courses, project-based courses that allow them to really apply their own personal learning styles, push them to really think outside the box, and not the traditional classroom textbook. We got to cover these contents because the state requires it for the state test. But just being in the space for learning for the sake of learning. And I would offer this idea because I'm starting to see it more often. teachers who are opting to use their social media presence to let people know in the extended networks that I teach and I'm offering classes on Saturdays or after school where kids just come on remotely. There's a nominal fee and we have class. And the classes we have are around the arts. They're around science. They're around social studies and humanities, all these different spaces. And they're interdisciplinary and they're fun. We're taking the skills that you're getting from school and we're applying to these spaces. And we're not talking about, these are not tutoring spaces. These are not remediation spaces, but these are spaces where, you can actually have an extension of your teaching happen in a space that it's really on your own accord. Now, why is this $1 million idea? Because I really believe that we're missing the fact that there's such a great need around the country, even around the world, that a teacher can easily have 15 kids show up. Let's say a nominal fee of $20 a kid who shows. Let's say every class session, a kid shows up. Let's say you just do Saturday school. And we're talking about what, for the sake of argument, 4 weekends a month, and a family can pay $80, $20 for each of those days, and you have 20 kids in that classroom. That would mean every Saturday for that one class session, you're looking at $400. If you do 2 or 3 sessions, now you're looking at $800, potentially $1,200 for just doing what you already do, and you're just doing it virtually from your home. And kids are coming in, they have assignments. The point is not to overwhelm them with work because they still have to go to their regular schools, but creating a space for them to really blossom in a non-traditional space. And if you do it well enough, you might have kids from around the world, around the country, who are now becoming friends with each other and engaging each other in this space. And depending where you are in your locality, that $20 fee can be $50, $100, $200 per session, because depending where you're going around the country and depending on what you're offering, people will pay for this. And I think it's very interesting, And again, I'm going to say it. There's nothing wrong with equating public education, and money in the same, to each other, because at the end of the day, a lot of our parents are going to these million-dollar companies and getting their tutoring services and their test prep programs, but at the same time, our kids are not faring any better. So what happens if you took a page out from the past? Because back in the day, that's what used to happen. We had a lot of community schools that, went above and beyond the core content of the traditional school setting and said, hey, let's add these things into our kids' learning. And our kids did better. So I think this is something that could be a thing, And for those of you who are arguing like, well, that's not realistic, could we talk about learning pods? Could we talk about micro schools? These are things. Google it. Go on YouTube and just type in learning pods, and you see across the country all these communities and families that said, we're going to pull our resources together and bring, non-traditional schooling into our homes, into our spaces, so our kids can be better. And same thing with micro schools. They're deconstructing the traditional school model. I am a proponent of the traditional school space. I think it's very important, but I also think it needs to be reformed. And that's what I'm constantly doing in my spaces that I work in, is trying to find ways to just twist things to make it more applicable and more palatable to my students, the families, and teachers, so we can do great work. But at the same time, there's only but so much you can do with sometimes up to 30 kids in your classroom, and with a very limited day, a very rigid, limited day. So again, this is an idea that is in my mind, and I want to share it out there. And again, and if guys, just Google it. Just go and look up learning pods, micro schools. It's a movement that's happening around this country, and this movement, I think, should be explored so we can see how we can actually apply it in our communities as well, and specifically the Black and brown communities. Because and this is not just for teachers, but the other thing too I'm going to say is this: I've come across in my research a lot of people who are not teachers, who are moving into these spaces and doing really well and making an impact in kids' lives, because for some reason we have this assumption that the best teachers are certified teachers, and that's not necessarily true. But if you're a certified teacher, you have skill sets and experience and abilities that makes your teaching more of a superpower than just the random person who decides to try to teach something. We do have specific trainings and understandings and around the art and science of teaching that makes what we do so much better. In many cases, there's some cases where no matter how much education you get, you can go to Harvard and you're still going to suck as a teacher. It's facts. But however, the typical teacher who's well trained, has put the hours and time in, has skill sets and has an understanding of how to engage students, and I think that there's a great opportunity here for us to really expand ourselves across the country and even across the globe as educators, if we're willing to put the work in and also willing to take the risk of saying, hey, what happens if I extend what I do in the classroom and make that not just a side hustle, but an extension of who I am as an educator, as a teacher. When people ask me what I do, I tell them I'm a teacher, and if they want to explore more, I tell them my present position is school principal, but at the core of who I am a teacher. And I think that's something that should not just be relegated to the school building. It's something that every teacher should be able to and willing to and allowed to spread their wings to actually, extend their work outside of the building. Kind of like Doctors Without Borders, Teachers Without Walls. You know what I'm saying? All right, guys. I've gone longer than I wanted to, but I'm still doing better than I did the past couple of nights. So with that being said, this is Uche and Joku. Thank you so much for your time and for your patience and for your ears. And have an amazing night. And I'll talk to you guys soon, all right? Peace. Oh, yeah, before I jump out of here, please subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. Because let's get this algorithm pushing this content out there so that we could grow this channel. Almost at 1,500 subscribers, trying to see if I can get to 2,000 before this summer. I think it's very possible. But if you share my content and you like it, it's going to happen. And I appreciate y'all that are always here. All right. So with that being said, again, have a good night, be well, and I'll talk to you guys soon. All right. Peace.
And now he's been promoted. His job, principal.
Let's see it.